live on YouTube already? All right, okay. We on? Okay, we're on. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, teachers. Thank you so much for being with us here today. I'm seeing a few of you joining in our Zoom room. Welcome, welcome. We'll give everyone a few more seconds to settle in because I'm still seeing a couple of you who are still joining in. If you're just tuning in, make yourself comfortable. Feel free to grab whatever food, coffee, or water you have, and we'll get started in just a bit. But while we're waiting, if you've joined some of our previous Edcafe AI webinars in the past, you might be thinking these are some new faces right in front of your screens. My name is Osbert, and I'll be hosting your session for today. If it's your first time joining, welcome to the Edcafe AI community. It's always great to see both familiar and new names here. We've got a really exciting guest speaker lined up for you today as well, and I'll be introducing him in just a moment. But before that, I do want to get to a quick icebreaker. Because today's topic is something that's not just timely, but it's truly something that's already happening everywhere in classrooms because we're diving into formative assessment and adaptive teaching with AI. Now, if you're here today, chances are you've already had some experience with AI, whether that be with ChatGPT or, some of the other popular large language models that we can primarily use for grading, lesson planning, and writing reports. And here's a quick question to warm things up, I guess. If AI could take over one of your least favorite teacher tasks, what would it be? I would love to see a couple of comments that you could type into our Zoom chat. Would it be grading? Would it be lesson planning? Maybe student emails, probably. There's no judgment here. We've all got that one task we'd happily hand over to AI. I'm just really curious to see what comes out. Greetings. Okay, I'm already seeing a few answers rolling in. I see a lot of grading and marking. That's totally relatable for sure. Someone said um differentiation. That's a good one. AI can definitely help with that. These are really great answers. Keep them coming. I think I'm seeing mostly marking and grading in here. And feedback as well. These are all pretty much aligned to what we're going to be covering for today, and we're really excited to walk you through over that. Our guest speaker is very excited to walk you through over that. These are great answers. Keep them coming. And of course, to everyone watching this live on YouTube, we see you too. Feel free to use the comment section over there to share your thoughts or questions, because after the webinar, we'll go through those comments and respond to your questions or feedback. So don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you. And even if you're catching this on replay, your comments still count. So we'll keep an eye on them. And right now over here on Zoom, we're still seeing a lot of great responses coming in. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this. We've got assessments for formative and summative, differentiated tests. All of these are really great answers. Thank you. Thank you so much. Right. Okay, I'm trying to keep up with the comments. I'm so sorry. But that is just a little hint of how interactive we planned today's session to be. And that was just one of the many questions that we'll be asking throughout. So stay with us until the end. You'll definitely get the most out of this interactive and engaging session that we've prepped for you today. Now, to kick things off, let's take a quick look on what's in store for today. As you can see on your screen, here's our session agenda. You'll notice a few trophy icons that I have put in there, because apart from the main webinar session, we'll also be giving away 3 Edcafe AI premium accounts to 3 lucky winners. Those giveaways will happen midway through the webinar, as you can see in there, and again after our guest speakers full session. So make sure you stay with us until the end, because who doesn't love a good giveaway? We'll also have a dedicated Q&A session right down here. But since we want this to be as interactive as possible, I'll be popping in and out while our speaker presents to highlight your questions or comments from the chat. So you don't have to wait until the end for that dedicated Q&A session. If you have any thoughts, ideas, or questions, just drop it right into the chat anytime, and we'll try to address as many as we can on the spot. Now, before we get into the session, there's one more thing you might want to bookmark for later. You'll see a QR code right on this slide right now, which you can scan to access a dedicated Notion page that we've prepared. But no worries if you can't scan this. My good colleague and friend Tia will be dropping the direct link in the Zoom chat as well for easy access. Let me just go ahead and share that page as well, because on this page, you will be able to see some session references about our speaker, a couple of links and resources down here that we all can access again later. The second time I will be showing this page again, there would be the sample Edcafe AI assessments that our speaker will be sharing, as well as his presentation file, all ready for you to access right after this session. But this survey form is something that you might want to bookmark for later, because we will be drawing some of the names who will be winning Edcafe AI premium accounts from this specific survey form. But we'll go through that later. I will be sharing this screen again a little later. Let me just go back to my slides. All right. And now one small favor from me before we start and kick things off. If you can, please turn your cameras on. We'd love to see your beautiful faces. It helps make this feel more like a community session than just a webinar. And yeah, I'm already seeing some of you turning them on. Hello, hello, hi, thanks for the waves. I love the smiles I'm seeing, thank you. But don't worry, no pressure. If your internet's a bit sensitive, it's totally fine either way, but we really just want this to be as interactive and as engaging as possible. And when we get to the Q&A portion later, or if we spot your question mid-session, feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask follow-ups directly. Just like what I've said, we want this to feel like a conversation instead of a lecture. And this is a large meeting set up on Zoom, so let's really make it feel like one. We want things to be relaxed and open and just interactive. Okay. All right. So one last thing before we hand things over to Steve. I'd love to know, where are you joining us from and what time is it there right now? Because we're streaming live from Singapore time. But I see a few familiar names from different countries already. We have one from Taipei who share the same time zone. Hello. Bahrain at super early in the morning at 10 a.m. Hello. Port Moresby at 5 p.m. Philippines, who we share the same time zone with. Northern Ireland at 8 a.m. Wow. Let's see who's pulling an early morning or staying up late at night. Sydney at 6 p.m. Hello, Kim. Hello. From Qatar as well, which is at 10:06 a.m. Pretty crazy. I mean, look at that. That's amazing. Thank you so much for being here wherever you are in the world. It's really just amazing that we can all connect from different places and time zones, yet we're all in this learning space together today. Okay. I think without further ado, it's the perfect time to introduce to you our guest speaker for today. Let me just go and read a quick bio from him. Our guest speaker for today is Steve Miller. Steve is the primary digital learning lead at Garden International School at Kuala Lumpur, where he supports teachers and students in using technology meaningfully and creatively across the curriculum. He also runs Primary EdTech, providing practical resources and professional development for international schools across Asia. Steve is recognized for his clear, hands-on approach to digital accessibility, AI in education, and student creativity. Once again, I'll give a round of applause to Steve. Hi, Steve. How's it going?
Hi, how's it going, everyone? Really nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am here in KL in Malaysia. We've been celebrating Diwali today, hence the costume. And we have had a fantastic day of celebrations, colors, amazing food. So it's been a great day so far, and I'm really pleased to be here to share with you hopefully some interesting strategies about personalized learning, adaptive teaching, and how AI can support that. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen with my presentation, and we can get started. So here we go. All right. So thank you, Osbert, for the introduction. We are looking today how AI can make formative assessment faster, more useful, so we can really use it to personalize learning in real time. It's going to be a practical session today. We'll be learning about some of the key assessment strategies, looking at some examples of those strategies, see how they can be applied to various contexts, and you can get involved in some sample activities as well. Just to add a little bit more about my role and the work that I do here. As Oscar said, my role is primary digital learning lead at Garden International School. That includes developing the digital learning curriculum here and supporting teachers in integrating technology across the curriculum. Also occasionally turning things off and on again to make sure that everything is running smoothly. I also run a platform called Primary EdTech, which is there to support teachers with helpful tools and resources to support the integration of technology in the classroom. So this is what we're heading for today. We're going to talk a little bit about formative assessment and how that can drive adaptive teaching. I'll show you something called the adaptive teaching cycle and how you can apply it in your classroom. We'll look at some different digital tools that make assessment and adaptation more efficient, and you will get to participate in a variety of quick formative assessment strategies, and most importantly, leave with a set of strategies that you can use in the classroom. So quite simply, today we are connecting formative assessment to adaptive teaching using a range of practical strategies. And everything that I talk about in this session today will link back to these three things, because adaptive teaching really is the bridge between assessment and personalized learning. So I wanted to start just with a quick overview of formative assessment. I'm sure you're all aware of the various strategies that we can use in the classroom to support students in terms of assessment. Formative assessment is there to monitor student learning, provide feedback during the learning process rather than at the end. So the purpose is to check on learning during teaching. There are a range of low-tech, high-tech ways of doing this. You might be familiar with tools like 2 stars and a wish, think, pair, share, thumbs up, exit tickets, and our kind of high-tech versions of these things, which include interactive quizzes and polls, exit tickets through digital tools, chatbots even as well. But really, the method that we use to assess is less important than what we end up doing with that data that we collect. And we'll be exploring that a bit later. So just to continue with the conversation, I was hoping that you could just share a few things about challenges you have when personalizing learning. So what is difficult, what's tricky to do when you're trying to personalize learning for all the students in your class, all their different backgrounds, languages, needs? What is the most challenging? And I'll just give you a few minutes to reflect on that. And if you're happy to share your thoughts, then please do. Yeah, time is definitely number one for me. Having the time, the resources to improve understanding, personalize effectively. Yeah, lots of students at different levels, difficult to reach them all, absolutely. Lack of time, lack of infrastructure. Designing activities, definitely. Large classes, yeah. Great. Thank you so much for sharing. If you did in the chat, but I think some of the key themes, and when I speak to teachers about this as well, it is really time to engage with this, time to actually put it into practice as well. And just having that diverse set of students to adapt your teaching and assessment to can be really challenging. And this is where AI can come in, and we can talk about that in just a moment. So this is what I'm calling the adaptive teaching cycle. This is just a picture I've built over kind of 10 plus years of teaching in how we can go from assessment to personalizing learning. So it's worth keeping this in mind as you go through each lesson with your students, and it is a continuous cycle. It often starts with assessment, and that's where I'll start now, but really this can kind of pick up at anywhere at different points in the lesson. In terms of assessment, that is literally just collecting a snapshot of learning in that moment. And as we said, formative assessment is about collecting data during the lesson. Adjustment is then tweaking that instruction to support all learners. And I'll share some strategies for that in just a moment. having the opportunity to practice, to give purposeful time for students to practice the skills, and then reflecting, considering those next steps. So as an example of some of those formative assessment strategies, I already mentioned a few, but it could be things like quizzes, exit tickets, self-assessments. We'll explore those three particularly later and how Edcafe really helps with those three things. But formative assessment can include a wide variety of different tools. And then once you collected that data, then it's how do we adjust, how do we change instruction so that it supports all the students in the classroom? And this is where your kind of real-time teacher decision-making adjustment comes into action. So adjusting the pace of the lesson, perhaps, grouping according to student needs, providing additional support and scaffolding, alternative explanations, or even that next challenge for the students that have really got it and are ready for that next step. And then it's time for the students to practice using personalized choice-based activities based on how confident they are feeling and their particular learning style. So having a range of strategies, a range of activities, various different types of media that they can engage with to help personalize their learning. And then a reflection, which really helps both the teacher and the student to know what is going to happen next. And that could take the form of things like goal setting, peer feedback, self-reflection, and considering what those next steps are going to be. So as an example of how this might look in practice, let's consider for a moment a maths lesson. And this maths lesson is on equivalent fractions. So as the teacher, you may start with a quick, perhaps an AI-generated quiz to check the student's understanding of this topic, equivalent fractions. Then once you've gathered that snapshot, this is where the adjustment comes into play. So perhaps you notice a small group of students have a common misconception about this lesson, and we keep a small group of students on the carpet to clarify this concept with them, provide more practice opportunities, provide more scaffolded support. Meanwhile, the rest of the class are practicing in ways that match their confidence, match their learning style. And so the cycle continues then into reflection, and the students reflect on their learning and set a target perhaps for the next lesson based on something that they found challenging during that lesson. So I'm going to go through in a moment how AI is supporting us with some of the barriers that we face with teaching and learning. We already mentioned a few things that are tricky in terms of personalizing learning specific to various students in the classroom. But just consider for a moment, and you can consider this from a student's point of view as well, what are some barriers to effective teaching and learning? For example, as a student, a really common barrier to learning is language. And if students are learning in a language that's not their home language, this can be a real barrier for learning. So if there's anything else that you can think of, and perhaps it's things that you know that AI is already helping with, or something you know you've tried AI tools to support, then that's great as well. But if there's anything that you might consider a barrier to learning, and I'm going to go through a few more examples in a moment. I'll see if I can fix my sound in the meantime. Hopefully that's a bit better. Yeah, Jennifer, I think Osbert's going to go over a bit more later about the kind of specifics about Edcafe and particularly the premium accounts. There are loads of really good features that I've been using recently, and I'm going to give some examples of that in a moment. Yeah, definitely. Your own personal skills could be a barrier, absolutely. And this is really common with lots of teachers as well. Again, it comes back to time, doesn't it? It comes back to how much time you have to develop your skills in a particular area. From a student's point of view, focus and distractions can absolutely be a barrier. Yeah, the student's interest in a particular topic, this is really key as well. If the students aren't interested in what they're learning, that is a huge barrier to helping them to develop. Lack of motivation. Yeah, tools not being user friendly. This is something that you see quite often, unfortunately. Yeah, all right. Thank you. Yeah, really, really good answer so far. Thank you for sharing. And there are loads, there are lots of things that could be considered barriers for teachers and for learners as well. From a teacher's point of view, we mentioned time, we mentioned large class sizes, perhaps a lack of opportunities to develop and expand skills, limited access to tools and resources, particularly if they're paid tools. And then you've got things like bias and subjectivity, like who has created the resources that you're using, perhaps a pressure from various parts of your community in terms of what is being pushed, perhaps the opposite, perhaps a lack of clarity in no particular direction. And from a student's point of view, there could often be things that are hidden, things that can affect their learning without even realizing it. Maybe that's anxiety and stress. Maybe it's a lack of feedback, so they don't know their next steps and they don't know how to move on and what's next. Maybe it's the fact that all their assignments are just one size fits all and it's the same for everyone. And again, we've got those kind of language barriers, accessibility issues that could be a challenge for students as well. Thank you again for your suggestions in the chat. Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Yeah, and even with the most effective skills, we need time to practice. Yeah, couldn't agree more. So this is where technology, AI in particular, can lighten the load for a lot of these barriers. And when we're talking about personalization, it's not necessarily about giving everyone something completely different, but rather removing some of these obstacles so that learners can access the curriculum in an equitable way where each student is considered and their barriers are removed. So it's worth talking about these so that we can consider how to break them down and how to remove those barriers. And it's good news because AI is absolutely helping with these things. We've obviously seen a huge development of various platforms over the last few years. And this is where AI really comes in to help. Obviously, there are limitations, there are risks, there are issues to do with bias, data privacy, accuracy, all of which are still being discussed, of course. But AI can make things, firstly, much more efficient. We know that we can generate content in seconds, we can automate various processes and really personalize tasks at a large scale. And this is making things a lot easier, a lot quicker for teachers already. Access as well and equity is something that AI is really supporting with, including differentiation, translations, simplifying, or even making things more complex, scaffolding, providing alternative formats as well. And then you've got engagement. So the use of AI can really kind of provide those low stakes activities, give instant feedback, and focus the students on where they are and their progress. So in a moment, I'm going to go through some real live examples using Edcafe to support with these strategies that I've mentioned and to go through some various different scenarios. But I believe I'm going to pause here for a moment to just pass back to Osbert for a sec because he's got some exciting things to share with us. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Let me just go ahead and quickly share my screen at the same time. Yep, just like what Steve said, let's take a quick break from our webinar proper, and I hope so far it's It's very insightful. It really is very insightful, and we're so excited to see what's next. But for now, let's draw the name of our first lucky winner of an Edcafe AI premium account. I've got Tia in the background who's helped me out with the draw. She's pulled out names from our list of registered participants here on Zoom. So if you're joining us live and successfully registered, your name's in the mix. So I guess, yeah, let's see who's gonna go home with our first Edcafe AI premium account. So I'm just gonna share my wheel of names screen. Okay, I have all of the names from our Zoom chat right over here. Let me just go ahead and shuffle that quite a couple of times and share sound as well so we can draw the first name. Wind. Suspense. Okay, yay. I hope you're all really welcome as well. But we've got our first winner of Edcafe AI premium account for a full year. This is Pema Tashi. To Pema Tashi, please do send us a message, particularly Tia. You can send a DM to Tia over our Zoom chat. And Tia will be in touch with you after our webinar to verify your registration and activate your Edcafe AI premium account for you. Again, congratulations. And even if you didn't win this time, don't worry. We still have 2 more premium accounts to give away before the session ends. And with that, let's jump right back into our session. Steve, I'm handing the floor back over to you. Can't wait to hear what's next.
All right, thank you so much. So I'm just going to head back here. So this is the exciting part. This is where we get to see how these strategies work, how Edcafe can provide support to help with implementing these in the classroom. So I'm going to share 3 examples of some assessment strategies and how you can use Edcafe in particular to increase efficiency, equity, engagement in your classroom. We're going to learn a little bit about each one. We'll watch a little example of how that looks in terms of creating a quick kind of task for students to do. I'll show an example of applying that strategy to a real scenario, and then you can try this yourself as well. I've set up a few quizzes that you can participate in and see how the platform works for yourself. So just before I continue, Edcafe does have a ton of tools, creating slide decks, chatbots, flashcards, things like this. I'm mainly focusing on quizzes today because of our topic on assessment, but there are a load more other tools that you can explore another time. So I'm starting with what we call a hinge question, first of all. So this is essentially a pre-planned multiple choice question that you might use in the middle of a lesson. So this is to decide whether further input is needed or to proceed as planned, or even if something more challenging is appropriate for some students. And really important aspects of a hinge question is that all the answers should be feasible, should be draw on a possible misconception from that lesson, from that concept, obviously apart from the correct answer. So in this example here, we are learning how to multiply by 1,000, and we have among the answers 1 correct answer and 2 that highlight a common misconception. So for example, the first answer highlights a common misconception, which is moving the digits in the wrong direction. So when you're multiplying by 1,000, you move the digits to the left. But that answer, the digits have been moved to the right, which could be a common misconception that students have. And C highlights another misconception, which is some students think that when you multiply a number by 1,000, you just add 3 zeros. Obviously, in this example, that doesn't work. So the idea of this hinge question is to draw out some of those common mistakes that students make so that we can highlight whether any further input is needed. So this is just a quick example of how this works on Edcafe. I'm creating a hinge question here based on apostrophes this time for an English class. Just a few questions is all I need. And I've mentioned hinge questions here in the description where the answers should all draw on possible misconceptions. And you can see how super quick and easy that is to generate. It's already shown the correct answer and a short explanation for each one as well. So really easy and quick to generate and then assign to your class. So once you've saved it and given it a name, then we can assign it to our class and they can join either through a QR code or a link that's shared maybe somewhere like Google Classroom. So it is just a few seconds to create something that's really accessible for students. And then this is this is an example of something I've done before. So this is a lesson I taught recently on digital footprints. And you can see that the answer there, 60% have got the correct answer, but there are still a few mistakes here. And I can identify some of the next steps that I need. So maybe I need to target some particular questions at particular students, alter some groupings, provide some extension challenges for those that have got it correct, and just talk through this and reflect with my students. Yeah, there might be a concern here that some of the students think that sharing their home address in a public chat may be acceptable. 40% have not chosen that answer. So this gives me a little bit of pause for thought, and I can then reflect on my teaching and how I continue with the lesson based on this feedback. So I think we've got a link to share in the chat here, and this is going to be an activity that you can participate in now. It's a quiz that I've already set up, and this is just a really quick hinge question example that you can take part in. So if you follow the link in the chat, you'll be able to answer the question, or if you've got a phone, iPad near you, you can scan the QR code. And I'm just going to share my kind of teacher view here while you're working. So you can see how this looks. So you can see my number of participants is going up as you join. I can see live who's answering correctly, whether I've got any students of concern. I'm not going to reveal any names, don't worry. So on this participants tab, I would also be able to see the name that you entered and a kind of overview of your answers and who I should be kind of concerned about, who I should be reflecting on later. So really easy for students to join. What I love about this as well is that you don't need a login for students to join. This can be a real nice thing to have in a classroom, a platform that doesn't need logins. It is something that can be very difficult sometimes. All right, so thank you for participating in my hinge question. I'm heading back to the slides now because I'm going to go over to strategy 2, which is an exit ticket. And this is a really quick way to capture understanding at the end of a lesson, hence the name. So an exit ticket is basically designed to gauge student understanding at the end of a lesson, see how well they've engaged with the material, and to gather feedback on their learning and help, again, to inform future instruction. So in an example, in a lesson about passwords, an exit ticket may include questions like, what makes a password strong? What information can you share online? And this will help me to gauge whether the students have really understood the core concept of the lesson. And those exit tickets can take a variety of forms. There could be various answers, multiple choice, open-ended, but it's essentially to gain a snapshot of learning from that lesson. So here, again, in Edcafe, we can create a new quiz to create this really simple exit ticket. The topic this time is passwords. And this time I've added an instruction, which is create only one question, and it does. So we've got just one simple question about passwords, and we can assign that exactly the same way as before. Students can join with the QR code or a link. And then again, this is the teacher's view. So this is what you might see. So in an example here, a lesson about online safety, the question was, if you see something online that you don't like, what should you do? And here I've got 52% have got the correct answer. They know to tell a trusted adult or report it. A few got the incorrect answer here. So this, maybe from my point of view, I know from what I've seen in the lesson that they know what's considered inappropriate content, but maybe they don't yet know that reporting to an adult is a really good next step. So this is something that I can use in my future lessons or continuing in this lesson to help support my students. So you can have a go at this now as well. We've got another link for an exit ticket this time. Again, I'll share my screen with you so you can see how this looks from my side. There we go. So the exit ticket, yeah, it was 5 questions in total that we've got here. So once you've answered the 5 questions, then you'll see from my side the kind of average score, how long it's taken for the students to respond. So for most people, it's just taken around 40 seconds, less than a minute. This is a good length of time to spend on an exit ticket, just something right at the end of the lesson that's just giving you a quick overview of learning from that session. And if you wanted to at this stage as well, you could go through some of the explanations that are generated here to help with some of those questions that may have been a bit trickier. All right, awesome. Thank you. So we've got one more. And that last one is a quick write. So a quick reflective piece of writing to consolidate thinking. Perhaps that is to briefly comment or explain something. It may involve students writing about what they've learned, problems that they've encountered, and just helps to enhance their understanding, consolidate their learning. Could be something like, what was the most important thing that you learned today? What was confusing? Is there something that you would like explained better? Just to provide the opportunity for feedback and to help the students reflect on their own learning journey. So this time I'm adding a file. This is a lesson I did on group chats on online safety recently with my year 5 students. And it's going to be a short answer quiz with 5 questions. So it's just going to give them an opportunity to type, to write something, to reflect on the lesson. And an example is like, what did you learn from this lesson? What did you find difficult about it? And again, we just assign that straight away to our students. They can join without a login and give their instant kind of reflection on their lesson. And it really helps to provide some key insights on your students. So after the lesson that I did about group chats, this is some of the feedback that I got from my students. So you can see some of them have demonstrated a really confident view on the subject and they understand. Some of them might need a bit more prompting to go a bit further into what they learnt and explain their learning from that session. Okay, so one more activity for you guys to get involved in. It's just a quick write question. You can write something to give some feedback. And I'll show you what that looks like on my side as well. So it's just one question. Feel free to take part. Absolutely don't have to, but it's just interesting to get the students' experience from their side as well, what they will see, how it works. And you can see you can see my suggested answer there if you're stuck for ideas. All right, awesome. And we don't get an average score here, obviously, because this is just an open-ended question. But we can get a good overview of student responses here. Okay, thank you. So just to summarize on those three strategies here, we started looking at a hinge question. This is like a single, carefully chosen question that checks for understanding, usually midway through a lesson. And you can see that our AI tools there helped us to just instantly generate some questions. We can choose the topic, we can upload files or link websites to help the generation of those questions. An exit tick, on the other hand, is more of a reflection at the end of a lesson that helps gauge what needs revisiting, and AI helps to analyze those responses, perhaps help you to highlight any trends or gaps that need addressing. And finally, we looked at a quick write. So this is a quick written response. And the purpose of this is to encourage students to organize their thinking, demonstrate their understanding, consolidate their learning. And AI is helping by giving prompts for specific ability levels or language needs. For example, we can be really specific about the audience of our question that we're sending this to, and the AI can help to personalize it to them. So before I finish off here, perhaps you'd like to share something that you think will make a big difference in your classroom. Maybe there's one of these strategies that you relate most to, or there's a tool or a part of Edcafe that you think could really support your class. Whether that's a hinge question, an exit ticket, a quick write, maybe it's something else that I've mentioned so far. Is there anything in particular that you think would make a real big difference in your classroom? Yeah, I think it's the same for me as well. I think hinge question I find myself using quite a lot. It does sometimes take a bit of planning to consider what is a good hinge question, but this is where AI is really helpful. And even if out of the 5 questions that you generate, there's only 1 or 2 that you think really match with what you're doing, then you can just tweak that and you can just edit the questions you see. You only need a couple to really get that clear snapshot. Yeah, I believe it is possible to edit the quizzes and remove answers, edit answers, edit the questions. Once you've generated it, it is editable. So just to finish off from my side, I think one of the most important things that I would like to get across today is the fact that formative assessment is only really powerful when it drives action, when you're using those insights and that data that you've collected to transform learning and to personalize learning for your class. Adaptive teaching is really helpful for that. It turns your insights that you gather from assessment into real impactful moments in the classroom. And AI tools are amplifying and improving what teachers are already doing, noticing, responding, supporting students. And it's a very exciting time. So if there's anything that you would like to try this week, perhaps one of those tools or strategies, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, give me a mention Edcafe. I'd love to see anything that you do, any successes, anything that didn't quite work. And there are many more kind of resources and tools that I'm sharing on my website as well, Primary EdTech, and my YouTube, Primary EdTech, that you can check for more guides as well. I'm going to pass it back over to Osbert, who is going to continue with our next part. Thank you so much.
Woohoo! Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. That's a fantastic session. This was incredibly insightful and so timely. And as we all can see, AI is quickly becoming part of more and more teacher tasks, especially in, oh, am I sharing my screen? I'm seeing black. Okay, there. Sorry about that. Going back, just like what I was saying, AI is quickly becoming part of more and more teacher tasks, especially in assessments and adaptive learning. So this session really couldn't have come at a better time. Thank you again, Steve, for sharing your expertise and showing us what's possible with AI in classrooms and in education. I think everyone here picked up a ton of ideas that they can apply right away with all of these assessment strategies that we've covered. Now, I hope everyone here enjoyed our webinar proper, but don't go just yet because we're not done. As mentioned earlier, it's time for us to draw 2 more lucky winners of Edcafe AI premium accounts. And those will be drawing from those who will be filling out our feedback form, which you can find on the Notion page I shared earlier at the start of the session. Let me just go back to that slide as well with a QR code. I think Tia would be happy to help out. Send the link as well to this page. And I'll go through the Notion page with you. No worries. Hold on. Okay, so here's the Notion page. It's all updated with the links and resources for you. The sample Edcafe AI assessments that Steve just shared are all linked down in here. What's good with this is that you can also clone this to make use of it in your actual classroom assessments, as well as the presentation file for the deck that Steve just shared. This is the YouTube link to the webinar recording, which will be automatically posted as a separate video as a live recording right after the session. And the survey form is right up in here. When you access this, you would have a couple of questions that you have to fill out. And right after that, your names will be stored as part of the mix of names for when we draw our 2 more lucky winners for Edcafe AI premium accounts. So be sure to fill this one out when you access our Notion page that we just provided, which is also linked over the Zoom chat, as well as the QR code right on our slides. This is what you'll see. Just go over to links and resources, and under survey form there, you will be able to access where we would need you to fill out. But as we're waiting for everyone to fill out the survey form, let's go over some of the questions that we have as well a little earlier. I think I saw someone asking, what are the advantages if I upgrade my account in Edcafe AI? So we actually have a dedicated page for all of our available plans right in here. We have 2 plans above the starter account, which is forever free. We have Pro and Premium. Just a couple of differences would be your monthly AI generations, some dedicated specific features that are not available on the free account. And that goes on an unlimited scale if you choose to upgrade to our highest tier, which is Premium. For both Pro and Premium, these are both billed annually, and you can simply just access edcafe.ai/pricing to check out to whatever tier that you'd like to upgrade to. If you have any questions, just let us know, just so we can try and address that. If you're having issues with checkout, you can always send us an email at support@inkno.com. Next up, we had one question on downloading our quiz reports. We do have a built-in download option right in here. This is a sample quiz that I have saved in my library. Once you track your responses from your dashboard, this is how your saved file would look like from your Edcafe AI library. And here is where you can start tracking submissions that you're getting from your students. And right up here, you'll see an option to download report. This will give you a quick file where you can save and review for later if you need it. Hope that's clear. And then I think I also did see whether our quiz feature is paid or free. Our quiz is essentially available on a starter forever free account. The only difference is the number of generations that you will be able to create in a month. Essentially, on a starter account, you can generate a total of 100, and that is refreshable month per month. And at the same time, have a cap of 40 participants per quiz. So if you'd like higher cap or maybe unlimited, then you might want to consider Pro and Premium for that. Right. Okay. I'm just gonna see if we still have a couple of questions right in here. As for the webinar recording, as well as the blog version of the webinar and this resource, we will be sending out a post-webinar email just so everyone's guided on the resources that we just shared today. So no worries about that. Any questions? Do let us know as we try and have more people fill out our survey form. Again, our survey form, this is where we're going to be drawing the names for our lucky draw, our last lucky draw for the day. Okay, I think I got word from Tia that the names are now finalized. Let me just go and feed that to my wheel of names right in the background. Hold on. Okay, let me just share my screen again for my wheel of names. Right in here, I have a couple different names from the ones who've successfully filled out our survey form. Let me just go ahead and shuffle that a couple of times, and we'll draw two more winners for Edcafe AI premium accounts, which we can start right now. Hoshu Sun, congratulations. You're the second winner of our Edcafe AI Premium account. Now we have one more. So let me just go ahead and shuffle that again, just so we're fair. And let's spin. One more winner of Edcafe AI Premium account goes to Bernadine Dorette. Congratulations. Congratulations to all three of our winners for today. Again, for Koshu Sun and Bernadine Dorette, feel free to sound off our Zoom chat. Send a quick DM to Tia, just so Tia can reach out to you over email and basically walk you through the process on how you can claim your Edcafe AI premium accounts. Let me just go ahead and share my screen back to the original screen. All right, okay. I hope that's all showing. Again, if you have any questions, you still have time to drop them over our chat. But if anything, you can always reach out to us at support@inkno.com. And speaking of upcoming sessions, we have another one coming up, an exciting one coming up soon, but this time with ClassPoint. Join us as we host Icebreaker Ideas with ClassPoint, where we'll explore fun ways to make your PowerPoint lessons even more interactive and engaging. Tia, I think, is dropping another registration link in the chat now, and you can also scan this QR code that I have on the right side of my screen. So you can sign up directly. If you've enjoyed today's session, you'll definitely love that one too, because it's going to be super hands-on, and that's going to be hosted with by Tia, and together with another good friend of ours who's watching in the background, Josephine. Shout out to Josephine right there. So don't miss out. Well, we'd love to see you there too. And I hope we see you on our next one, even if it's over at class points. But yeah, that officially wraps up our session for today. Once again, a big thank you to everyone who joined us live on Zoom and on YouTube, and of course to our amazing guest speaker, Steve. Steve, before we close, any final words you'd like to share with everyone?
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Really appreciate you making the time, your most precious resource. So thank you so much for joining. And I hope you've got something useful out of it. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Steve, once again. And to everyone here, we appreciate your time, your energy. We love the energy and engagement throughout the session. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again at our next one. Goodbye.